Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth today. I've got a lot of ground to cover today, so I'm going to get right into it. I'll probably be speaking quickly, so you may want to I'll speak quick so that I can try and get through the content as quickly as I can so the video is not too long. But where I'm going with this, if you have problems keeping up with my Australian accent, just use that wheel nut at the top to slow it down. Or alternatively, I do have links in the video description. Just jump to the content that you're actually interested in. So without further ado, let's crack on. So the first thing I want to do is acknowledge the current subscribers and say thank you for remaining committed to the channel, and also to acknowledge any comments that are made obviously below some of the content that I'm loading. So I did leave a comment for Lana that I would respond to something she mentioned on the colour content, a video about the colour azure, which of course is has been loaded this week. Now, she made links between that, Lana. You made the links and identified that you've got a crystal, I believe, if I've understood what you were saying properly. A little difficult to actually get the full gist when it's a one-sided conversation. But what I understand from that is that you have got some azurite and you're linking the crystal properties, the healing properties of the crystal to the colour azure. Now, the thing is that they're actually different. And the reason I make this point, this is why I've put the images up. Without seeing your particular crystal, crystals is something I'm passionate about. I've sold them. I've worked at fairs. I've had a lot of experience with interacting with people that use crystals for various purposes. So my azurite that I've got is actually like the image that's on the right, although you can get azurite, as I understand it, that's more of a crystal type particular stone, shall we say, that is in the image on the left. Now, I associate azurite with the darker colour that is on the right-hand image. And when I talk about azurite and its healing properties, I don't actually associate it with the colour healing properties because it's different. So where the colour azure, to be more specific, is where the colour azure is primarily associated with the throat chakra and nurturing type colours, I associate azurite, the crystal, with more of the properties, say, as I stumble over my words, such as lapis. It's more associated, I believe, with the brow chakra and even to things like telepathy. And I'll explain it more on the next slide because I've got a bit creative here. So the first association we would make with azurite is that it is particularly beneficial for the third eye or the brow chakra. Now, I've put some circles here as well. Yes, of course, it does link in to the communication chakra, or some people call it the seat of the soul, the throat chakra, because everything's got more than one purpose, actually. But I thought I would put the emphasis on the brow chakra because sometimes azurite has got this deep indigo colour to it, and of course that relates to the functions such as the clairs, the senses of taste, smell, sinus, tongues, lips and teeth, etc. What else can I say? Now, it's also a crystal that is potentially used by people that do channeling and do psychic readings and this kind of thing, because the idea of it is to be able to see through the eyes of love, to communicate and express verbally or emotionally or even telepathically through love. And this is why I have put it in as the heart chakra there as well, although it's not a traditional colour or crystal specifically for the heart chakra. But the idea here too is when we're working with chakras and we start from the base, we move our way up, right? The idea is that we don't focus on the brow until we've stabilized and solidified the function of the lower chakras. Now, because the brow and the throat are higher up, it is reliant on a healthy function of the heart chakra. I hope that's clear for you. I put that little funnel type image there to try and give people a bit of a more accurate representation on how the chakras actually function as energy bodies. I've got another slide up or another video. I can't remember which one it is, but it's in the spiritual information. It's probably about chakras and an introduction where I talk about chakras being pretty much the engine, if you like, of the body on an energetic perspective, where they all function in sync with each other. But what they're doing is they're actually pulling energy like a funnel actually into the chakra. Now, if I was going to be doing a more accurate representation, I would actually have that funnel image on the back of the head as well. So basically, if you can try and visualize this in your mind or get an understanding of it, the brow chakra would be a bit of a band around the head because there is front and back as well, remember? So you would have a funnel at the back as well, is where I'm going. I might try and do a better image of it in the near future. Now, another potential use for Azurite is actually if you were doing auric protection. And this is why I've got the image on the right-hand side in this circle, right? So what I'm trying to portray there is that you've got the human physical body within that energetic light structure that is around them. And then, as you will be aware, because I'm pretty sure that you've looked at the other videos, there can be a sharing of energy just through day-to-day interactions. Now, if we were going to watch our boundaries, shall we say, because perhaps you're going through stuff or somebody's going through stuff and they don't want to be spreading their sad or unhappy feelings, so they want to put a boundary of protection around their aura. But also they might not want to be picking up other people's baggage as well. Certainly on an emotional level, they could actually work with Azurite to strengthen the boundary that's around them. Now, I think it's very important, and I'm going to make the point here, it's very important when we're doing any form of boundary work or energy work to actually know our own limitations. And because we can be triggered and take on board other people's stuff with ease when we're very open and caring people. And what is the point I'm trying to make here? Let me think on this for a moment. Yes, it's about empathy. So you will hear a lot of people turn around and say, I feel really sad because I'm an empathic person and I'm very sensitive to other people's moods and this kind of thing. Well, that indicates that you've got very poor energetic boundaries. If somebody's saying that, they actually do need to be putting some protection on their boundaries. But the caution or the tip I'm going to give to you here is that when we put the boundaries up, we have to have them certainly protecting us, but at the same time not rigidly protecting us from all energy, because if we do that, then we stop feelings of love coming in as well. So we want to be able to feel without becoming overwhelmed or burdened by other people's stuff, shall we say. Now, for example, I'll give you, for me, limitations on what I can work with comfortably and what I can't work with comfortably is actually because I'm a grandmother and a mother, I'm not immune to distress. Even though I might work on my boundaries, I'm not immune to the distress of a mother that's lost her child. And so I don't like being given photographs of babies that have been stillborn and asked to give information. And what I will usually do is not even attempt to go there, with respect to my apologies to people. I will refer them to somebody that is far more comfortable giving those kind of messages or tapping in, doing that kind of energy work, okay? So hopefully that's a bit of information there for you that you can use. And the next thing I want to talk about is actually beauty and self-acceptance. And this is largely because I've loaded the content on the Angel of Beauty this week, which has the focus on accepting your natural beauty for who and what you are. And it made mention of the fads and trends and this kind of thing. And so I thought, from this perspective, we've really got a situation currently in the modern world where I feel women are just ignoring their natural beauty. They've become very obsessed with this ideal of trying to have this plastic feature or enhancements that go to the extreme. And so I thought, well, look, with this video, I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail, which is problems with trying to keep up with social trends is realistically they change. We can see here, I've put up the photos of Mona Lisa, who frankly, I don't see the beauty of her, certainly by modern standards, but she was considered to be a great beauty in her day. And then the next lady, without doing any intention for body shaming or whatever, but you can see she is a large, buxom, what we call Rubenesque type woman. Now, years ago, the artists were obsessed and besotted by women with these Rubenesque figures, and they were considered to be greatly beautiful, very prized. But without going through all the different generations, if you look at I think it's the 1920s and 1930s, you've got the flappers. I think that was the time they were fashionable, and they were basically just completely skinny and emaciated. And then you look at things like, I don't know if that image second from the right is actually Twiggy, but Twiggy, of course, was a very popular model in the 1960s. And they recognised, obviously a little bit too late, that while Twiggy was naturally a very thin, skeletal type person, apparently she wasn't starving herself, but she was a role model for young women who were starving themselves so that they could actually look like her. And anorexia nervosa was out of control in the 60s, apparently. And then we go to Margot Hemingway, who was a very tragic person, as it happens. But I've included her because although I look at the photos of her and she's quite slender, when you compare her to the 1960s type of model, she's more buxom because basically she's not flat-chested. She had boobs. She probably brought D cups back into fashion. And I just want to make the point here as well, besides the boobs, is that she's got very thick eyebrows. Now, most people will be aware that in the 80s, yes, thick eyebrows were very fashionable. And prior to that, really thin eyebrows were the go, these pencil thin eyebrows. And they were popular at different stages through history as well. And the problem with the super thin eyebrows is that they actually stopped growing after a while, and women ended up with no eyebrows at all. So I hope the point that I'm making is that you can try and be very fashionable right now, but in another decade or so, you're going to be completely out of fashion. And with respect to Brooke Shields, she's still got those really thick eyebrows. They were very obviously part of who she is and her identity, but they're no longer considered to be beautiful or a mark of beauty in today's time. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is when it comes to fashion trends and beliefs around beauty, people's perceptions are based on what they see on the movies, in books, on TV, and all of this kind of stuff. And we're looking at something that is not real. And we can say this again and again. I can say this to you, and you probably will not take it on board unless you actually have worked in a modelling type environment. And for this reason, I'm going to say, look, I was very blessed years ago. I've got a story attached to these photos, and this is one of my personal experiences. I was working for a newspaper in a photographic department way back in the 80s. Obviously, I was a young girl, and I had incredibly low self-esteem and poor body image and all the rest of it, because obviously that's part of being a woman, isn't it? Not appreciating what we've got. But because I started at this newspaper, we had a photographic studio there, and the models used to come in, do the photo shoots, and then they would be on their way. And where I'm going with this is I will never ever forget when one model, who just had all the confidence in the world, which just blew my mind, strutted through the photographic department. She was the only model that actually ever did this, because usually they would wear robes and go into the studio, get their photos taken, put their robes back on, and get changed and go on their way. But this particular day, this model has walked in. She had what is called a string bikini. If you don't know what that is, go and do a Google, because it meant that there was a lot of skin exposed. She was wearing a top, and it was, let's just say, it was a very sexy look, okay? And she's walked through the studio where the lab technicians are and all the rest of it. She's got a dressing gown thrown over her shoulder, and as she has strutted towards us all going, "Where's the studio?" in basically next to nothing, I'm pretty sure not only did my jaw hit the floor, but so did everybody else's. And it wasn't just that she was walking around in next to nothing, it was her supreme confidence to walk around with so much skin exposed that actually had horrendous razor rash on it for a modelling shoot. And in my naive way, I guess. I was like, how can you be a model and have skin that is that bad, right? Because it really was dreadful. And I'm not going to talk. I'm not saying this to body shame people either, because people have skin sensitivities and all of this kind of thing. It is part of what happens, and hair removal is something that people do. The thing is, the comparison I'm making here is that this is a model, and when we look at the photographs, we have this perception that they have flawless skin. This woman did not have flawless skin. And I made the comment to one of the photographers about it would be very difficult. I know this is unkind, I'm an older person now, but I said it would be difficult to actually, I would imagine, to be able to use that photograph, and I was a bit surprised. And he had said to me, "Oh, don't worry about it." He said, "I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to airbrush that out." He said, "She's got good body shape." He said, "She's got good bone structure." Something like that she had the shape, and the technicians and that kind of stuff would be able to get rid of the imperfections. Now, we're talking about technology that is 40 odd years ago at this point in time, so they can do a lot more now. Well, where I'm going with this is, yes, they did. That woman looked incredible. Her photos were amazing, and she ended up becoming the face of basically a motorbike business that was selling motorbikes. I think she was the face of it for about 30 years, long after the photo was taken, because she was so sultry and sexy. But nobody would know about her really horrendous skin. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention too is about the cellulite, right? Because this is something I think that women experience. I'm not sure I've ever known of any men to actually struggle with cellulite. I think it might be something that's gender associated. But so many people are hung up about it, and in their mind they think it's worse than what it actually is. Well, the thing is, it's part of being a woman. And I honestly do not know what to say to people about that, except don't sweat the small stuff. When I was doing a Reiki massage, I had a lady who was so self-conscious about these tiny little dimples on her thighs. It really wasn't bad at all. And it was almost crippling her. So the point I guess I'm trying to get to with this is, wear your body with pride, You are a woman. If that means that you've got cellulite, so be it. If that means you've got a few lumps and bumps somewhere, so be it. And let's have a, conversation about enhancements, Is it all about surgical? I mean, that's got to be, why put yourself through that pain? Who are you doing it for? That would be the question I'm asking. But not all surgical enhancements, or actually not all beauty enhancements, are actually about surgery. Sometimes they're about this. I couldn't find a good graphic for it, but those body shapers or whatever that women torture themselves to get into, and then pull the zip up, and all of a sudden they're sucked in. It's not that different to a corset or a girdle that they used to wear back in the day, but it makes a woman apparently about 2 sizes smaller than what she actually is. It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Now, of course, I come from that era of the idea of doing this to yourself. It was like the suffragettes made movements so that women could be free to not have to wear girdles and corsets and this kind of thing. And it seems like we've regressed and gone backwards. Now, the point being, the reason why I'm saying, who are you doing it for, is actually because I don't think men care, okay? And I welcome men putting in their comments. I don't think they actually care if women wear these things. I think they would prefer to see the real woman, whether she's a bit on the chunky or chubby side or not, for a few reasons. One is, I just want to clarify my position here. I've worked in mining, I've worked with a lot of men, and I understand from speaking with them that they actually are not that fazed about a woman's shape, right? Yes, okay, when it comes to being attracted to a person, people will always have their preferences, okay? But the thing is, what I feel that women need to be asking themselves, if you've got to put on one of these suits because you feel that you need this to impress a man that you're trying to attract or lure into another relationship, then you're not actually marketing the truth of who you are. Basically, you're putting on this superficial, here I am, it's false, it's not real. And then I do make jokes every now and again about, what happens when they get home and clothes have got to come off. Do the guys suffer from buyer's remorse, And then how does that feel for the woman who is rejected because actually she's 2 sizes bigger than she is? Why not just go, I'm a bigger woman, and go out and be that woman and wear that size with confidence? That would be my recommendation. But I think the biggest problem is that women actually aren't dressing to attract men. Now, I recognise, by the way, that not everybody is in a heterosexual relationship. So I'm just talking about this now. Freedom, whatever you want to do is your business. The point I'm making here as well, though, is that the women who are dressing for men, trying to attract men, they're actually dressing for other women, okay? Because it's more about what other women say or think about how they look, because men are actually just really easygoing when push comes to shove. And if they're not, ladies, then I would suggest that you ask yourself, do you really want to be with this man who is besotted with the way you look as opposed to who you are? The other thing that I would like to convey here as well is basically talking about perceptions of beauty. This is in regard to the surgical enhancements, because if we look at celebrity, there is this common thread. Once they start getting surgery done, they start looking the same. They've got the same eyes, they've got the same nose, they've got the same duck lips, you name it, okay? And they lose that natural beauty that they were actually born with. Now, when the point I'm trying to make is there is this internal desire of all people to be acknowledged, respected, and valued as the unique individual that they are. And that means beautiful exactly as they are right now. And this becomes part of the message I believe that we're getting from the angels is value yourself exactly as you are right now. There is beauty in everybody. Now, with these two images, what I've put up here is, I think they're two different women, two different haircuts anyway, and we have one on the profile and one face forward, and I realise they've got different hair lengths, but let's not get hung up about this. What I'm trying to identify here is we don't see beauty by the celebrity standard here. We see thinner lips, we don't see a duck mouth, we see perhaps angular shape here of features. The lady on the right even has, I think that's called a Grecian nose, I'm not sure. But either way, these two women are naturally beauty. They haven't, or natural beauties, they haven't actually, if they have done any surgical enhancements, they're not easy to identify. And to me, that is, if you really must go down that pathway of enhancement, the idea is to have it look natural. And the other thing to consider too is, if you are one of these people that is getting these enhancements done because you're trying to attract a long-term partner and to have that committed relationship, right, is if you are overtly enhanced, to be honest, I don't think there's too many men that would actually knock it back. But the reality is too that it kind of conveys, if it's obvious, it's like, this costs a lot of money. Those women that get the breast implants, shall we say, that are absolutely massive, guys will be going, well, they'll probably need to have a bit of surgery over the years. And realistically, ladies, if you're obsessed with the surgeries and the treatments and all the rest of it, you actually need to be marketing yourself to probably about 1% of the population, because not many guys are going to be able to afford to support you unless you can actually afford to pay for your own surgeries. I'm going to make a comment about skin here as well, or skin exposure, and I realise that culturally the exposure of skin is not accepted in all places, so these comments are directed to the Western women who the younger generation seem to have this belief that, if you've got cracks, show them off. If you've got a white crack, let people see it. And the whole concept of it's my body and I can do what I want with it. Well, that's wonderful, Yep, I'm an old girl here, but certainly skin was being exposed here in the West because I live in a hot climate. All through my childhood, it was like, if you've got it, flaunt it was actually the word. It was never actually part of who I was, I must say. And as I've got older, I actually have been more grateful, especially once I started working with men and having these really in-depth conversations with them. And this is the beauty, I think, when you're not actually judging people. So I want to be clear, I'm not judging people there. I'm just asking, have a think about what you're doing and what it is that you're trying to achieve by your choice of clothing or your choice of makeup or surgery and that kind of thing. So where I'm going with this as well is that when we talk about skin exposure, there's not a lot of mystery left if there's a lot of skin exposed, okay? And I'm going to share some information that I found out many years ago. And I can honestly say too, because I've got adult daughters now, I remember a time frame, oh goodness me, I won't say which one it was actually, just in case it gets back to her. One of them, when she was about 18, she was feeling a bit sorry for herself because she hadn't been able to meet a guy that she wanted to, or that wanted to commit to her or whatever. And she was having a whinge, as we say, about where all the good guys gone. And I became frustrated because to me it was like, you're not respecting yourself. Okay, that's the first thing. You're in a mining town. We'd moved back to the mining areas, and I know how these guys think because I've worked with them and this kind of thing. I said, you're not respecting yourself. And I said, the first thing is, if you want to have a guy, you've got to respect yourself. Just because you've got a Y crack doesn't mean that you've got to show it. Just because you can do it and you've got the right to show it doesn't mean that actually you need to show it, okay? Because it is about human nature. Men are not actually into having it all laid out on a slab for them, shall we say. Sounds a bit off, really. So this is something that I was shown a long time ago. So if these images offend, please just skip over. But there's a reason for it. There's a rationale for this. And I have tried to keep these pretty low key because I don't want to be done for having adult content on here, because that's not the intention. What I'm trying to convey here is the rationale, the nature of the beast, shall we say, is that most men actually like a little bit of mystery and suspense. It's kind of like a titillation for them. If it's all hanging out like on the image on the right-hand side, and that's pretty subtle compared to some of the ones that I did find online. I felt like a bit of a porno queen going out there having a look. But either way, there's not the guys can see it. They're not really interested. They can take a look and whatever and move on. The video, or the picture on the left, of course, is a lady who, if she stood up, and when I say lady, we know this is a posed and contrived picture, okay? So it is designed to be sexy, if you like. I hope I don't get into trouble with these words with YouTube. But either way, we know that this is a designed photograph, but what it's attempting to portray is a woman who is modestly dressed by Western standards. And if she stood up, that skirt would be down to her knees. So she is reasonably well covered by our standards. But when she bends over and she's working, that hem lifts up. Okay, so that is kind of like a ooh for guys, right? More so than the one on the right. If a gust of wind were to come along and flick that up and they got a flash of a knickers, right, they would know that's an accident. Now, for some reason, guys, please do feel free to put your comments up if any men are watching this. For some reason, guys actually prefer these accidental glimpses, if you like, because it's naughty, it's a thrill, it's a bit of a suspense, and they like to have something left back for the imagination. Now, where I'm going with this too is, especially, actually, I'll tell you what, and guys, tell me I'm not wrong, if that skirt blew up and she was wearing a pair of granny undies under there, I bet you would think that was a bit of all right, because you would know you were absolutely not meant to be looking at that, and that's why she's got a granny undies on. So where I'm going with this is, I did have that conversation with my daughter, and she ended up moving to a different town a couple of months later. Of course, at the time she poo-pooed me and told me I was a prude, I didn't know what I was talking about and all the rest of it. And then she ended up finding a guy. She's now married, she's got children and all the rest of it. And a couple of years back, she said, you know what, Mum? I'm like, what? She said, I remember when we had that conversation, she said, and I thought you were just full of it. She said, but in hindsight, she said, I decided to put it into practice. She said, and that's actually when I met my husband. And I said, so what? You learned to respect yourself, and then the men started to respect you. Yes. So anyway, suffice to say, she's a happily married woman these days with a couple of children. So just putting that to you. So 35 minutes in of waffle. I hope it's been entertaining, but anyway, I'll try and crack on and be fast. Okay, what do we have that's new on the channel? Not a lot, and as far as no new series, but we do have new content going up regularly. Dare I crack on? I will. So 35 minutes in of waffle. I hope it's been entertaining, but anyway, I'll try and crack on and be fast. Okay, what do we have that's new on the channel? Not a lot, and as far as no new series, but we do have new content going up regularly. Dare I crack on? I will. So 35 minutes in of colour content is ticking along nicely. I've loaded some stuff and I've got a lot more that I've actually just got to put the audio on, but I'm developing the content to go up. This week we've got emerald green. I have had a few problems trying to get the actual colour exactly as I want it to be. That's not obviously this slide. I've got a video called Emerald Green that's going up. I think that one's on Tuesday. This particular video with this shade of green is going up on Friday, and it's related to the higher heart chakra and it's to do with nervous energy. So just a reminder, this one's on Friday. So in regard to numerology and the arrows on the birth chart, you'll be able to access part 2 tomorrow afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Just a reminder, if you have forgotten, this is definitely going to be a 5-part series, and I need to do it that way to do justice to understanding the implications of the arrows on the birth chart. I've just done part 3, and I need to add audio to that, and then I'll schedule it so that I can try and get routine and order and meet people's expectations. I actually had quite a bit here to talk about with the angel content, but what I'm going to do is actually leave this to next week because it's taking so long, this video. But what I will do, I'm going to respond to the comment made by, I can't remember, it was one of those special usernames that made the point from their perception that angels can only be male. Okay, so what I'm going to do is address that answer now and say, well, actually, there's a couple of factors with this. Angels are not, based on my understanding, male. In fact, they are genderless. And this is because we only need biology if we're a human in human form. Angels don't procreate, so they don't need to be male or female specifically. However, my understanding is that they carry masculine and feminine traits within all of them, with the exception of the seraphim and the cherubim. And I'll be doing a video on them in the not too distant future. Now, the other thing I would like to point out is why I believe this comment, and I'm open to correction, okay? I really put my hand up and say, everything I know does not mean that I know everything. Oh, I think I might make that into a quote. I'm open to learning new content, right, or to learning new information. But to me, it would not make sense that angels are only male because it goes against the universal laws of polarities. Where there is one, there has to be another. So if you can, well, to me, it just is irrational and illogical. And there is a lot of logic, I believe, that's applied to the spiritual realm and all of that stuff. Now, there was something else I was going to say about angels. Let me think on that for a moment and get it come back into my head. Oh, yes, quite simply, if we as an individual are uncomfortable with an energy of a certain layer or whatever, spirit angels will accommodate our needs. So if, for example, I'm not comfortable with the idea of men, then an angel is going to represent as a female to me, and vice versa. I believe this in most instances. I think there's a couple of exceptions, though, which is Archangel Michael and Archangel Raziel and Raphael. I think they always manifest as a masculine form, but from what I understand through talking to people, that many, if not most, of the other angels can present to different people in the feminine form. So, you might get somebody that turns around and says to you, I saw that angel, but they're a female, they're not a male, and vice versa. This is because the angels are accommodating their personal needs. And that then goes into I was doing a video on personal truths, actually. That's a meteor. Okay, so that's a video that's coming up. So when we're talking about angels manifesting in a certain way, we're talking about our personal truths. It's not necessarily a universal one. But anyway, I'm going to hang back on any of the other conversations about the angelic realm for now. So, as previously discussed, and the reason for this whole discourse on beauty is because I loaded the content on the Angel of Beauty this week, and she's the one that created the response, shall we say, that video of you can only have male angels. I don't think so, but anyway, I love this image. I hope you like it too. And next Thursday, you'll be able to access the latest video that I've got ready. I've still got to load it, actually. I've done the recording on it. And this is Israfel, the Angel of Music. There's some strategy and tips on this video as well. So, exciting news on the technology front. I had a bit of a wobbly. I can't remember if I told you about it last week, but I actually formalised a complaint to the Ombudsman saying something along the lines of there was a real problem in Australia if we can't get the same infrastructure as a third world country. And it was a poor reflection on our government, which, because technology is now a vital service. So, suffice to say, I've woken up this morning to one heck of a racket, right? And those poor guys have been out there working all day long. I think they just finished up. So, good on them. My understanding is that the optical fibre cable will actually be in very soon and not before time. I did have a lot of other nightmares going on, but I think that was just my computer stuff. So, anyway, so it doesn't look like I'll need Elon Musk now anyway, after all. As for the art and the quotes, my apologies. I worked out that I actually loaded because I scheduled the quotes by Maya Angelou. I scheduled them and they loaded on the wrong day. So I do apologise for that. I have loaded the ones for next week and I will double check to make sure that they become public on the correct day. As for art reels, well, actually I haven't done a new one because I still haven't been working much on it or doing much work on the art. So what I did for today's video is I've just loaded some of my favourite ones. And that's it, basically. So instead of continuing to waffle on, I'll just turn around and say, you know what? Thank you very much. If you've managed to stick in and hang in there for the duration of this video, thank you very much. Please do consider leaving a comment. I'm open to all comments. I don't really mind what people put up. They can question me, they can call me out, they can say they don't agree, and that's fine too. But if you do like what you see, or you just want to connect with me, then leave a comment. And I look forward to hearing from you. And I say thank you very much. Let me know what you want to see on the channel. If you haven't subscribed, do consider subscribing. And for now, I'm just going to say thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week. Catch you on the next video. Bye for now. Stay blessed. Ta-ra.